summary, what your life stood for. Money is not going to be the answer, and then we kind of will finish it.
Any other additional points that stuck out to anyone else that you want to summarize? Okay, so that moment that we just visualized, all of the conversation about discomfort is what gets us to that moment, right? Like in the coffee shop, can we get a little bit of just silence? Discomfort is what gets us to that moment when we're standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Hardship, we said, is the mechanism Allah uses to change and evaluate what our reaction is for ourselves before we meet Him. Because the evaluation with Allah doesn't happen until the end, right? You have your whole life to make different decisions and choices. Allah uses ibtila, hardship, to get us to be forced into making a decision on how we're going to react to that hardship. We either react by just getting into our comfort zones, we react by turning on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we react by rising to the occasion. Right? We react by acceptance and perseverance through the hardship in order to figure out what that hardship was meant for. How do we come closer to Allah through that hardship? And that is forced agitation, that's forced discomfort. And so when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day, that's what's going to be written in our book. All of those moments of discomfort and what our reaction was to that discomfort. And that all becomes a culmination of the choices that we made for ourselves. And I personally, the argument I'm making for myself, and hopefully this is the argument that you will see, is that if we don't have that meeting in our perspective every single day of our life, it's not going to be what we want it to be. If we don't prepare, right, who the famous words were, right, if you fail to plan, you what?
Plan to fail.
You plan to fail. Famous last words. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so if we don't have a plan in place for that last meeting where you visualize it, just like the activity we went through, you really close your eyes and you imagine that situation, that state. Everybody, Allah tells us that وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى وَمَا هُمْ بِسُكَارَى. On that day, we're going to witness people looking like they're intoxicated, but they're not. They're not intoxicated. But their fear of what they've now done their entire life and how they meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all in them. So it's causing them to go into disarray. It's causing them to not recognize themselves, not recognize the things around them. But then there's other people, and this is what I want to plan. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. So when we witness those books flying around, and we're worried about which hand is it going to come in, is because we know that if it comes in our right hand, we're going to get an easy hisab. That accountability when we stand before Allah, it's a promise of Allah. Allah doesn't break His promises. A promise from Allah is if we get it in our right hands, we're going to have an easy accountability. Easy accountability. And so with that easy accountability, you also get فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ فَيَقُولُ هَاؤُمُ اقْرَءُوا كِتَابِيَهْ إِنِّي ظَنَنْتُ أَنِّي مُلَاقٍ حِسَابِيَهْ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. Imagine this situation where you're waiting for that book because you planned for this moment. Every single day, you woke up with a fire in your belly saying, this is how I want to meet Allah. This is what I'm going to say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what my life means. Guess what? When that book comes in your right hand, you're going to go and want to show it off. اقرأوا كتابي. Read it, all of you. Every single one of you, read my book. I'm not afraid of it. Why? لأنه إني ظننت أني ملاق حسابي. That is why. Because we planned for it. We recognized that we were going to meet Allah and we planned for it. And that's what the Kitab Goal is. The Kitab Goal is a mechanism for you and I to align our entire life to that summary that we give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that you start to write your book today. Not the kind of writing that Allah is talking about here. The writing that's happening in these books are the angels that are writing every single thing that we think, that we act upon, that we see, that we do. You can determine what you want your book to say if you start writing it today as well. So whatever you're writing in your book, guess what the angels are also writing? They're writing what you're writing. And now you start to find harmony between what the angels are writing and what we are actually writing for our lives. And that's the concept that I want us to really have in mind. That's where goals start to come in. That's where we really start to say, okay, what does success look like? Well, I need to have some sort of purpose that ties all of the actions that I do in my life to that one purpose. And that one purpose is multifaceted, because what do we know about our lives? Islam is not just what we did in Salat al-Isha. Islam is not just about coming to the masjid and praying and that's it. That's your spirituality. Al-ibadah, worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Our ultimate purpose on earth is to worship Allah. If it was only to just go do salah, then why would we have to deal with each other? Why would we have to live in the world? Why don't we just sit in our sanctuaries and our monasteries and just worship day and night, day and night? And yet the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam كان يمشي في الأسواق. He used to walk in the markets, because that's where he started to deal with people. That's where he started to realize more about the human condition. What are we in need of? So our ibadah needs to permeate through every aspect of our life. And that's what your Kitab Goal does, is it connects everything that you do. So you spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day at work. Well, are you working on something that you're going to sit and have a conversation to Allah about? Or are you going to say, Ya Allah, like literally 2/3 of my life, it's not connected to my spirituality. It's not connected to my ibadah. 2/3 of it, get rid of it. I just want to talk to you about this 1/3 where I went and I prayed in the masjid, I prayed Salat al-Eid, I went and did Taraweeh, I caught Laylatul Qadr, I did all of these things. Or is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to say, well, hold on. There's a whole 2/3 of your life that I want to talk about. What did you do with the wealth that you gained? What did you do at work? Like, did you hurt people? Did you help people? Did you solve problems? Did you create problems? Did you make people's lives easier? Did you teach the Quran to people? Did people find you to be a person who's a qudwa? Or did they want to run away from you? Did you represent me as a Khalifa on earth, as a representative? Or did people say, oh my God, this is the worst religion. What kind of people, why would I want to be this? رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَا آمَنُوا. Oh Allah, don't make us a test to those who don't believe in you. Because our actions speak louder than our words. And so your ibadah permeates through every activity that you do. And that's how your Kitab Goal aligns you. When you start to now ask yourself, what am I going to say? What defines you and me? I don't know if anybody's asked that question, and I want you to be honest. Have you asked yourself that question? What will you say to Allah when you meet Him? Just raise your hand. And why did you say that? Tell us why you had to ask that question. Seriously. Just to put it in perspective for people.
My father died in my arms when I was 13 years old. So I knew it was only a matter of time until I was going to die. And I wanted to ask myself, what am I going to do when I face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Day of Judgment? So at the age of 22, after I graduated, I had to I sat down and basically evaluated. If I do this kind of lifestyle, I'll have this material wealth and this spiritual wealth. If I have this, I have this, and I was able to put it to the car, I was able to put it to the level of Iman and the service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, to me it was that I might go at any time. I can't assume I'll be an old man in my 70s, 80s, when my uncles and my father died in their 50s. So I might go at any time, and I need to be ready to face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I need to live my life according to that principle. And that was 30 years ago.
And mashallah, we've all benefited from the barakah of that conversation and that realization that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted from you. But he was working on a clock. How many of us work on a clock? Unless we've gone through a traumatic experience that wakes us up and says, I don't have enough time. We don't work in urgency. And the kitab goal is supposed to put that sense of urgency because you don't know when you're actually going to have no more time to do it, to act upon it. So even making the intention, that's the beauty of our faith, is even taking the first step of making the intention in your heart that Allah, this is what I'm dedicating my life to because you gifted me with these things. This is my skill set. This is where these are the parents you bore me from. These are the siblings I had. These are the circumstances you put me through. These were the tests and the hardships that you used to refine me, to build me up to be this person. And with all of that, Allah, I'm dedicating it to this cause for your sake. But if you don't have a clock that's telling you you need to come up with that thing, then every single day ticks by. And you lose time. And you heard from Uwais last grounding series. These are all the decisions that now are going through. It's like once you get to whatever the proverbial top is, and you look down and you're like, this didn't bring me to what I thought I want to say to Allah. You got to reevaluate. So I'm trying to give that. My kitab goal is to dedicate my life to try to get as many people in this world to understand that they will meet Allah on that day. They will stand before His throne. They will be asked the question, "Iqra kitabak." And I want them to know what to say with absolute certainty because that's how they live their life. And they're the ones running around. "Iqra'u kitabiya." Imagine that feeling. And we can never be content with it. That's the beauty of it. You never know if any of those actions you did will be accepted, except when you meet Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you actually work towards it, and you intended it, guess what Allah does? A man that killed 101 people, what did he do to the actual fabric of the earth? Ripped it apart just to bring his intention closer to his result. Moved the earth so that the outcome met the intention. Because not always our intention meets the outcome. Majority of the time it doesn't. But when Allah believes that your intention was the right intention, He will move you to the outcome that He wants so that He may reward us. So that is what a kitab is. Now, how do we get to it? How do we actually start to now reflect? Each of us have to get to know ourselves better. Because the noise of this world has drowned out who you really are. And that's what I realized about myself. The noise around me of what I understood to be true influence or power or intent started to fizzle away. And so then I realized the power actually exists in the human being. Because actions are the things that the angels questioned. When they asked Allah the question after He created our Father, They asked him the question, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَن يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء. The worst of actions. Are you going to create from these people that you're calling your representatives, within them, people who spread corruption and spill blood? Worst things that can happen. And Allah responded and said, إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُ. He reserved a knowledge within himself that he never revealed to the angels. And that's the potential of us being able to achieve things that even the angels could not conceive of. That's why it elevates mankind, human beings, believers, when they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by choice, and they align that worship in everything that they do, they elevate beyond the ranks of the angels themselves. And that elevation is the realization of this statement, إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُ. So each of us have that within us. We just got to put it into practice. So now, how do you start to determine that? You have to look inside. Why are you in the position that you're in right now? And what goal have you set for yourself? Right? We said last week, what was the percentage of goals that get achieved when they're just sitting in our heads? No, it was like 20 something, right? So say you write those down, you get to 43%, okay? Now say you get someone to actually hold you accountable to those goals. You jump up to 76%. You write them down, and now you hold yourself accountable with someone else. Now this is the interesting thing here. The human being, there are studies about this. I'm sure there's multiple studies. We have 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. 12 to 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of these, 80% are what? Are negative. They're self-deprecating thoughts. I can't do this. I'm terrible at this. I can never achieve that. I'm a horrible person. I'm so shameful. Every 80% of those thoughts are negative. So where's the choice now? You can choose what you do with these thoughts. You can choose to put those thoughts in a productive way or a destructive way. That's how we grow as individuals. That's why you see, if you meet any of these successful people in the worldly sense, you talk to them, I can do whatever I want to do. I will go get what I need to go get. That's the mindset that they have. I create my fortune. Right? Qarun, right? He's إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. Indeed, I was able to achieve all of these riches, all of the things that everybody in the town was looking at and saying, I want what Qarun has. What did he say? I got it because of my own knowledge. I did that. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do to him? خَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِهِ الْأَرْضِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the earth and swallowed him, and guess what he also said? On top of swallowing him, and I swallowed his house. That thing, that material thing that we derive success from, Allah swallowed him and that thing as a representation of saying we don't do it on our own. We get power from Allah. So if our thoughts inherently tend to be negative, how do we change them? We start to have husn al-dhan billah. Because if the thoughts about ourselves are negative, then those translate into the thoughts we think Allah will answer from us. So what's the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ taught us so that we know that when we make dua, that Allah will answer us? What's that criteria? ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالإجابة. When you make dua to Allah, when you supplicate, when you call upon Allah, when you ask Allah, you have to believe with conviction He will answer you. Because Allah is capable to answer all things and achieve all things. But you're hoping also that you're worthy of Him answering it from you. So then there's another hadith. أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي. I am with the a positive perception of my believer in me. Meaning, if you have a positive impression of Allah, He's going to answer that positive impression. You have a negative impression of Allah, guess what you're going to get? Okay, you don't think that Allah, can do what I want to do? Think about how many ad'iyah, how many times you asked Allah and you limited your dua. How many of us have made limiting dua? Where it's just, no, it's okay, don't. I guarantee you, you're not raising your hands. How many times did you make a dua that actually is just realistic in your perception? It's a realistic dua. Ya Allah, please give me this thing. But you knew it's realistic. You know it's possible. Now, how many times did you all make dua that was unrealistic? Raise your hand. Okay, so more people unrealistic dua? Come on. That's good. We got a good group here. That you'll understand this. So what's the difference there?
I think if it's unrealistic, that means you have enough faith that it can happen. But if it's realistic, it's like not going to be like out of the ordinary, I guess.
Absolutely. So who are we making dua to? Who are we making dua to? Just say it. To who?
Allah.
To Allah. Who? We're making dua to Allah. Now, is Allah capable of doing all things? Is Allah capable of doing all things?
Yes.
Now, if He answered all of our dua in this room, if we all asked Him for billions of dollars, and Allah answered every single one of our dua, will He lose anything?
No.
Will Allah's dominion, His kingdom, diminish in any way?
No.
No. Okay, if all of humanity asked Allah for something, and He answered it, would He lose anything?
No.
Nothing. Okay, so logically speaking, if we are asking Allah, Allah is the owner of all things and the only one capable of giving and taking, and Allah can give to anyone He chooses, and He can give anything to that anyone, and even if all of those people asked Him and He answered them, He wouldn't lose anything. Why are you limiting your dua?
I don't think it has to do with how much He's giving, but it has to do with like us and what we think we deserve. Sometimes we don't think we're worthy of getting something, which doesn't have to do with God, it has to do with us.
Well, hold on. It does have to do with God. Why does it have to do with God? So why would a person think they're not worthy of the most merciful's mercy? Is He not capable of giving you mercy?
No, it's not about Him being capable, it's whether I deserve it or
But
not.
are you making the decision whether you deserve it?
No, but I'm comparing myself to other people.
Not you. I mean, let's say
Yeah,
this
yeah.
person, this theoretical human being that thinks they are so unworthy of Allah answering them, are they the decision maker on whether they're worthy or not? Do you and I determine how worthy we are in the eyes of Allah? No matter what we do, Iblis, Shaitan, the worst of Allah's creation that went against Him, and he said he rejected Him in front of all of the angels and the jinn. You know what the first thing is that he did? What did he do? After he disobeyed Allah, what did he do? He made dua. He's like, Ya Allah, let me destroy all of these people. That's the first thing he did. Because he recognized Allah is the most merciful. Allah will answer a dua. So how can you and I make the decision? And you are spot on. It's because we feel so unworthy of, Ya Allah, give me this thing that I'm working so hard to achieve. And then you sin, and you go back to that, Ya Allah, please just forgive me. Like, I'm not worthy of this. Ya Allah, I can't ask you for that big thing that I've been asking you for because I'm not worthy. In that action, we are actually, by not trying, diminishing in our mind the power of Allah. We are taking upon ourselves a judgment that we don't deserve to have. All that we can do is ask. Do the actions that need to set the right foundation for being answered, but everything else is up to Allah. And that's why self-worth becomes an important thing. If you can recognize that the reason you're making dua is because you're trying to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart, you're trying to meet Him biqalbin salim, with a clean and healthy heart, then all of your dua is already leading you to that meeting with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now what does the dua need to include? Certainty, right? We said the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that when you make dua, have conviction, have certainty in Allah, in that Allah can answer if He wills. Be specific with your dua. We should, how many of us actually plan out our dua? And plan, so people, you have actual dua that you plan out. Excellent. The more specific we are, and this is why istikhara is a very, it's asking Allah for advice. It's a prayer that asks Allah for advice and you make a dua. Can be done for anything. And the Sahaba used to do it multiple times a day, just like they would read Surah Al-Fatiha. They would make the dua of istikhara, of asking Allah for advice on any matter. So dua can be very specific to even the affairs that you're trying to achieve throughout the day. Ya Allah, should I come to this ground? Is this guy going to just protect me? If I go to this grounding, Ya Allah, protect me. Is it the right thing? Is it the wrong thing? If there's bad in it, protect me from it. Make it at the best times. We learn from the Prophet ﷺ that there are times in the day that are more preferred than other times to get your dua answered. So identify those times. The day of Jum'ah, dua is more elevated. There's a time in that day that if you make dua, it's answered. Before you break your fast, making dua is answered. Standing if you're sick, answered. In the mornings at Fajr time, answered. At the Maghrib time, answered. So there are different times throughout the day. After your salah, between the adhan and iqamah, they're answered. These are all preferred times that we've learned about, that when you make your specific dua in those times, you now are giving more opportunity, more chances at bat to be able to get the home run. And being consistent. All of us have been through this. It's very easy to sometimes give up on our dua when we think time has passed and it hasn't been answered. So we just stop making that dua and say, oh, well, okay, then Allah already answered me by not giving it to me. Or Allah answered me by not doing this thing. Or maybe Allah's not even listening. Maybe this is such a frivolous that I shouldn't even be making it. So we lose that consistency. But being consistent with the right intention of what the dua is supposed to lead to, makes that, then Allah starts to say, I want to hear my servant making this dua. So sometimes He withholds, right? We talked about last week, right? Subhana man man'ahu wa ata'an. That the one glory be to the one who is so far from imperfection that when He withholds, He gives you. If you have the right mindset. So sometimes He withholds because He wants your consistency. He wants to hear us asking and asking and asking because it brings us closer to Him. Be grateful and positive and combine it with action. So now, there are different techniques on how you actually develop your goals. But when you put into perspective that your kitab goal is the ultimate thing that you're trying to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that becomes the culmination of your life, it puts a lot of your goals into perspective. Like, how consequential can your goals be if when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you wouldn't even mention them? And if you don't have a kitab goal already established, and it does take time, I'll be honest with you, I started this, I do coaching, it probably takes 8 to 9 weeks of weekly meetings with my clients, with them pushing back constantly on, I don't get it, it's not clicking. I don't know, what is my life meant for? Until about 8 to 9 weeks, and then the eyes start opening up. Oh, that's what my life means? Great, these are the actions I now need to do. You start to work backwards. So your goals now become oriented towards the end goal. And it's just working backwards to different milestones that you believe it will take you to try to achieve it. And if you don't, you at least meet Allah and say, Ya Allah, this is what I tried to do. Ya Allah, here my children carried it on for me. here, the people that I inspired are carrying on this mission. I'm not the one that needs to finish it. Because we're living in an infinite game. All of the people that then take on your kitab goal after you're done and make it their own, that's what happens to you. You're just racking up. You're racking up the blessings of that. So that's the visioning. So there's different ways of doing this. What I found to be extremely helpful is visualizations. Visualization is when we actually sit down and see ourselves achieving a certain goal by putting an image of that, and then you reaffirm that every single day in your dua. You reaffirm it into different post-its around your house. Your life now becomes surrounded with how you're going to achieve these goals to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you are reciting this executive summary every single day. Now imagine if we're taken at that moment, that thing is, it's in the heart. It's in the heart, which makes it much more sincere. And now that passion and that purpose that you connect every single day of your life and the actions that you do make it much more valuable. So if anybody, has anybody heard of vision boards before? Okay, has anybody used them? Has anybody done it? Okay. Did you feel like it worked for you?
Yeah.
You felt like you got some benefit out of it?
Yes. Yeah, it did take some time, but yes.
It took time. What did you think the delay was? Was it your own conviction in it or what?
A little bit conviction, a little bit of the environment that I was in, and working towards the environment that I wanted to be in.
Okay, so it actually took natural time to be able to even achieve what you put on that vision.
Yes.
Okay. What about you? How did you?
I put it on like my lock screen on my computer, so like every time I would log in, I would see if I achieved any of my goals.
Okay.
I mean, it was motivating to look at.
Okay, but did you build discipline in trying to achieve it, like tasks and activities that you
I
need?
have a daily planning on my computer.
Okay.
So
Okay, good. Anybody else had experience with it? Okay, so you see the difference. So let's look at the percentages. The people who take goals seriously, and seriously meaning you put the effort behind it, not just that you're thinking about goals. You now put the work into achieving those goals. This is the separation line. You either 50% of the time maybe hit it, or you don't. So you're leaving it up to chance. Whereas here, more than 2/3 of the time, 75% of the time or more, you're going to achieve the goal that you do when you put the right work in behind it. So I personally found putting images and affirmations for myself on what I want to achieve has gotten me much more organized in knowing, well, okay, this is my kitab goal. What do I think I need to do to get to that place? Now there's areas where Allah's just going to do His blessings. Like there's no control for me in that area. That's just the bounty of what Allah will do. But what can I control and what positions can I try to put myself into in order to achieve that? And I put those into affirmations that every day I look at and I say to myself, I am this, meaning I've already achieved that goal. I am Uthman and, not I am Uthman, but you say I'm a two-time, Ironman by, June 2024. And then you work, and now every single day you're putting in the discipline, you're putting in the task, you're putting in the activity, you're putting in the work to achieve that. But all of it is frivolous if your ultimate kitab, it doesn't get you to a kitab. All of it becomes frivolous if there's nothing to tie it back to. I want that to be the key. So on this, if everybody has the handout, I've actually put a vision board activity on the back of your handout. If you need a handout, we have some up here in the front. So this is where you guys, right, the people you heard who do the vision boarding, they use daily planners. So I borrowed from my sister who started a company called Layali Goods Co. She actually created this daily tracker that goes through like your dreams, what are the actions that you're trying to do, and you can actually track on a daily basis what you do. So I have this here as just an example for you to see how to keep yourself more organized in trying to achieve your goals. You also have your daily prayers up top. So all of this, maybe this was a main thing. The first thing I start with every one of my clients is, are they praying salah 5 times a day? Why do I do that? Who can answer that for me? Before I get into any kind of goal setting and achieving success and all this stuff, why do I start with salah? Islamic foundation.
Makes you more disciplined.
Okay, discipline. Yes, there is a component of discipline. One thing you have to do, but we have like 5 pillars. We got to do those things sometimes. Okay, everything else falls into place. But why? Why? Yes, we'll have a relationship with Allah.
It's a source of meditation. There's like a saying.
Meditation. You guys are giving me the reasons behind why salah will have an impact on your life, but there's an ultimate reason going back to when we meet him. What is he going to ask us? You have your hand up.
I was gonna say it's like a daily habit.
It is, yes, and it builds discipline. Yes, you have your hand.
I was going to say it's a solid base to follow.
100%, absolutely.
We're going to be asked questions. What we did with our prayer, if we missed any of our prayer, and our body's going to be a witness against us if we missed the prayer. We're
Yes.
also going to be asked other questions as well, but those are going to be some of them.
So the first question that we are asked of all of the actions that we've ever done, the first one is our salah. Allah will ask the angels to say, was his salah complete? If they say no, we don't get past that point. If they say yes, he says, okay, what additional nawafil did he do? What additional prayers did she do? What additional sadaqat did she give? What additional actions did she do on top of the salah? But if our salah is incomplete, that first executive summary is out the window.
What if it's complete but the quality isn't like 100%?
That's when he'll ask, did they do more sunnah? How can he replace the incomplete quality with maybe additional prayers that we've done? So sunnah for us, like sunnah prayers, is like an halal insurance policy. Like if we know that we didn't do our salah 5 times, our fara'id, 5 times a day, which is the action that gets us closer to the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you try to back that up with additional prayers.
So let's say that like, you convert or like you fall away from Islam for a few times, or you just accidentally miss a prayer. So then, then one would think, well, what's the point if, I missed a certain number of prayers to keep trying if I can't send it to like.
Beautiful question. That goes back to exactly the conversation we were having before. Life is a continuum. It's not finite. If we absolutely believe there's a life after this that is eternal, then making one mistake in this life and then saying, oh, it's a zero-sum game. There's no point of doing anything else after this. I've already lost. You're making a decision on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you don't deserve mercy. You see the difference? So what we're supposed to do is, okay, I faltered. I was misguided. I lost track. But now the moment that I have the ability to make a decision to get back on track, I take that moment because perhaps Allah sees the effort that I'm putting in and gives me mercy from that effort. Perhaps. But if you don't even do it, now you don't even have an insurance policy, you don't have a life insurance, you don't got anything. You're just saying, I'm going to go bankrupt. But just because you lost out on some doesn't mean you should lose out on the rest. Because mercy is unmatched. It's unregulated. But salah, the reason I say salah is the most important thing is, yes, all of the benefits you guys, for sure, it's the only pillar that you do on a daily basis. That's a discipline that Allah is trying to build in us. No success comes without salah. If you do get it, I can guarantee you there's a lot of other issues that you have with that perceived success. The first success, قد أفلح المؤمنون, who? الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون. Allah in the first 2 ayat of Surah Al-Mu'minun, the believers, He says they've achieved success. Those believers have achieved success. Why? Because in their prayers, they are in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So salah is the ultimate foundation that we have to build. And every single one of us can do it. Every single one of us can build into it. So some of my clients, they don't pray 5 times. So we build into it. Okay, how many, even if you miss, try to make it up. Let's get to 3 consistently. Let's get to 5 consistently. Okay, now pray Fajr on time. This is a process. But the ultimate thing is you're making the intention that Allah, I want to pray 5 times a day so I can be connected to you, and so that you then transform your life into a more disciplined life.
What if you're completing your 5 prayers, but you're struggling to kind of build that emotion behind it, and you're just doing movements? How can you go about building?
Yeah, great question. So she asked, how do you feel your salah? How do you actually enjoy the salah that you do to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Because the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam looked at salah as raha, as comfort. The only time in this class we'll say you should try to achieve comfort is when you're praying. There's a lot that we have to, a lot of the baggage that we're carrying internally is what withholds us from truly appreciating the magnitude of that salah. We believe that we're not worthy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually talking to us. So that movement in our minds is just a physical movement. We haven't connected the spiritual element of saying, I'm witnessing, right? Because this is what we're told. Pray as though you are seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That moment that we close our eyes and we visualize, when you pray, when I pray, every time, the hope is that I am visualizing me being between the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every step that I'm taking in my salah, I'm visualizing that that's the steps that I'm doing to come closer to Allah in that moment. So I'm bowing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when I'm in complete desperation of Allah, I am in complete sujood before the throne of Allah. You start to translate your salah away from being the action to a context. But there's work. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But we have to, this is where meditation truly does come in. How do you just silence the noise? How do you make sure that the salah and all of us, I struggle with it constantly. In Isha, I had a kid next to me sitting on my leg. I'm like, there's a constant struggle. But the moment you put your mindset to say that this salah actually needs more, there is a conversation that's happening. How do I now translate my mind and my body to align to what my soul is getting out of this conversation? And you start to work towards it. And there's much more that we can do. There's a lot of times there's rust. The heart hasn't felt a connection in a long time. Those movements will take some time to actually start to generate movement within you. So not giving it, that's why the discipline is important. That consistency is important. But find something that actually tethers you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and use that as a mechanism to keep making your istighfar to remove that rust. Okay. Daily planning, that's what I was showing you here. So you guys can check this out and see. The more seriously you take your life, sometimes I've gotten this comment, positive or negative, I don't know. But, somebody comes like, man, it's very hard to, sometimes I don't feel you're approachable. And it's like, it feels like you're too serious. And it's like, I am very serious because I don't know when I'm going to die, right? Life is passing us by every single day, and I feel to the same point that the sister was saying here, like, there's so much Allah has given me, I haven't even paid zakat on that in my life. Not talking about wealth, zakat on the gifts that we have. And so there is a serious element. Of course, may Allah forgive me for not being approachable in many cases. But that's why, if you ever wonder why am I serious, because time is running out. Accountability partners. This is transformative. Find a friend you trust. Speak your kitab as you refine your goals, as you refine what you're trying to achieve when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then get a friend to hold you accountable to those. Write them down, send them a picture, and have them hold you accountable to it. It transforms you in how much you achieve. And then remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The constant dhikr is أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. I can tell you as an entrepreneur, it's depressing. Actually, a lot of times, it's very depressing to think, are you actually having an impact on the world that you want to have? Are you wasting your skills? Are you wasting the gifts? Are you wasting your talent that Allah gave you? And you're like, is this even going to pan out? Dhikr. Listening to the Quran gives comfort to the heart. Making an actual testification to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you believe in the process gives comfort to the heart. So engage in the dhikr, and inshallah with that we will end the series. We do have a few minutes. What I wanted to do, and I don't know if this is going to be too much on you, I see people leaving, so you can make a choice. We can either partner up and spend some time actually thinking about what that executive summary would look like right now, or you can use the back of this to break down different aspects of your life where you do want to now build alignment spiritually with those things. So fitness, a lot of us have fitness goals. Guess what? Your fitness goals, the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when did he receive wahi? After what action? Where did he receive wahi? The first one.
Mount Hira.
On the mountain of Jabal Nur, the mountain of light, in Ghar Hira. Not the cave, but in the crevice of Hira. How did he get up there? Hike, up and down for years. Rations, his food. Khadija radiallahu anha would bring him food for days, and he'd sit in that cave and he would look, and he would contemplate, and he would think, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What was I created for? What should I do? And then Jibreel alayhi salam came to him. Your physical fitness goals should be very much tied to your spiritual goals. Because only through the discomfort that you achieve physically do you then connect to Allah spiritually. So you can either take the opportunity to think about your kitab goals, just even a summary, or even your first sentence. What's the first words you utter? Or you can write down the different verticals, fitness, financial, spiritual, that ties into all of those, and start writing some of those down. Or we can just break for the evening. Let's just do a show of hands. Who wants to just take a few minutes to contemplate that first few words of their executive summary? Raise your hand. Okay. Who wants to spend time going through the other parts of their life and put different goals on that? Okay. You got double counting. Who just wants to leave? Okay, but some of you didn't vote. Is there a All right. Get into a group of two and just have a conversation with your partner on what is it that you want to be able to say when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just the first couple words. So if you were here for the first part, thinking about that meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what do you want when he says, read your book? What do you want the first few words to be out of your mouth? First few words out of your mouth, what do you want that to be?
Yes, the two of us are. You should say that. Let's do it together. Sure. If I understood the question, you said, what are the two words that you like to say when you read the book, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.